Hi, I'm Rachel Tessman from StampYourArtOut.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the US, and today I'd like to share with you some outside-the-box ideas that I created using the contents of the March 2019 Paper Pumpkin kit from Stampin' Up! Titled Poppin' Birthday. I love these kits because they come straight to my mailbox each month and contain everything I need to make fun, creative cards and gifts. I also receive a publication with directions, photos, tips, a ruler for measuring, details about the kit, and a link to a how-to video to help guide me in assembling. And the best part? I receive an exclusive stamp set and a mini ink pad that I can use over and over again even after the consumables in this kit are used up. A clear block, which was included free with my first kit, for mounting and using my stamps, and my scissors are the only extra supplies I need to provide. And not to make anybody jealous, but we are celebrating 6 years of Paper Pumpkin this month, and if you did not get this kit, you missed out on it. Hopefully next March you won't, but we received a bonus gift. We received an extra stamp set, which is huge, and it's fantabulous. I'm so excited. Paper Pumpkin kits are only $19.95 plus tax per month in the US. Shipping is included. My goodness, that free bonus stamp set alone is worth that. You control which months you get your kits, and there's no commitment or obligation. This month's kit makes a set of 8 pop-up cards, 4 of 2 different designs. But I like to think outside the box and create alternate projects so you can see that there's so many more possibilities with these kits. The kits are produced through Stampin' Up!, so the colors, images, and supplies coordinate with many other Stampin' Up! Products. I'll be using some of these coordinating products as I share my alternate projects. You can find these items listed below and linked to my online store. You can also look below for links to learning more about Paper Pumpkin kits, starting your subscription through me so I can spoil you with exclusive ideas, gifts, and prizes, joining my Paper Pumpkin fan club on Facebook where you can find even more alternate project ideas shared daily, and if you're watching my video on YouTube, a link to my website where I've shared photos of the projects that I'll share today. I'm excited to create with you, so let's get started. First, let me share with you the cards that the kit intends for you to make. They're fun pop-up birthday cards with coordinating envelopes. This is the first one, and you can see when you open it up, you have candles on cake on the inside, and on this one, you have presents stacked on top of each other. I do want to give you a tip. It doesn't mention it within the directions here, but I found that I had to make sure that when I put my candles in here in this little section that they were down low enough so that when you close the card they're not going to pop up above the card. The candles are high enough where they could, so just be wary of that when you're putting your candles in here. Just make sure that that adhesive section is down a little bit lower than you would think to put it. Another thing that I want to point out is we have had some dimensional issues in our past few kits, and the ones in these kits I'm finding are having the same issue, but it takes months of planning these kits, so it's going to take a while to weed out the kits that have the issues with the dimensionals. Just contact your demonstrator or Stampin' Up! To let them know if you're having a dimensional issue. I am in fact having a dimensional issue, and what they'll do is they'll send you a new set of dimensionals so that you don't have that adhesive problem. But I found right before I recorded this video that my hat easily popped off because the layer of adhesive on the dimensionals is not holding strong. And the phone number for Stampin' Up! Is 1-800-STAMP-UP, STAMPUP. Now, one more tip I want to give you before we dive into the alternate projects is don't do what I did. Don't punch out all your numbers ahead of time because then you have a mess and it's hard to find the exact number that you want in your big pile. Just keep them in the sheet, it's fine, and use them as you go. Your Paper Pumpkin kits come with the ink, and of course you get the clear block in your first kit. I find for ease and for quickness that using my full ink pads works better in these videos, so you're going to see me using my full ink pad, but you don't need that. And I also like to use my ergonomic blocks. They're a little bit thicker, they feel more comfortable in my hands, and we do have them in the online store in lots of different sizes. Your kits will always have stamps that are no bigger than the D size block, which is what this is here, but I recommend having some smaller ones too. It just makes it easier for stamping some of those smaller stamps. The back of each publication lists coordinating colors that you can get from Stampin' Up! And so that really helps for project planning if you're going to do alternate projects like I do. I'm going to be using these extra supplies in our first alternate project, which is going to be a card. So we will need the Stampin' Trimmer, some snail adhesive. It's not necessary, but I really like the quickness of putting this kind of adhesive on. And then the paper snips I have, you'll notice, has a ribbon on it. That's because I keep these sharp so that I can cut ribbon with it. We're going to be using the mini striped ribbon, and this color is Poppy Parade, along with some Poppy Parade cardstock, which is a beautiful red. I call it my paper pumpkin red because it really is very close to the boxes that we normally get our paper pumpkin kits through. And then we'll need some Whisper White cardstock. We'll also be using the dimensionals that come in the kit. I'm using some extra ones that I have because mine don't work. We'll be using some stamps, of course, and the Poppy Parade ink. And then we'll be using some consumable pieces. And the first pieces that I want to point out is that you've got 2 of these layers here to make each card. I love to try to create more cards with kits, like multiply the number of cards you can get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I know we're not going to be able to make a pop-up with it though, but we're going to cut this in half here. So you're going to be working with just a half a piece like that, some extra cardstock, and you can make a full card with that piece. And then of course we'll have an extra half to make another card. And then here we can make a third card out of this. So you can really make your kits go far if you think that way and just add some extra cardstock. We'll also be adding in some candle pieces and one of these banners. Let's begin by cutting our cardstock down. So we have a full sheet of 8.5 by 11 Poppy Parade. You can get 2 cards out of this size. We're going to cut it in half this way. So we're going to take the 11 inches, break that down to 5.5 on this side, 5.5 on this side, and give it a good slice. You just use this little marker over here to see that that is half. Now I can make a card with that piece I just set aside. We're just going to work with 1 card right now. And now we're going to rotate it in our trimmer, and we're going to score. We're going to put a crease mark down the middle. We have 8.5 for this length, and so for that we need to cut it in half at 4.25 inches. Now we have the base of our card. This piece here, we already know after we cut it in half, layers very well right into that little spot. And then we need a piece for the inside because it's hard to write on a dark color to put our name, our signature. So we're going to take this sheet of Whisper White cardstock, which is the same size. It's an 8.5 by 11, but we're going to get, instead of 4 pieces out of it, which we normally can get if we, take 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to cut it into 5 pieces. So to do that, we're going to do a little bit of math here, and I want you to trim off 3.5 inches on one side. So you're going to cut right there. Set this aside for now. This piece is going to cut to 4.75 inches. And you can just use that for something or toss it. So now we have these 2 different widths. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this one into the trimmer this way, and we're going to chop it at 4.75 inches. Chop it again at 4.75 inches. Now you don't need to do this if you're making just 1 card, but I'm showing you how to get 5 inside layers out of 1 piece. So now these 2 pieces are 3.5 by 4.75, and that's what we're going to do with this one. We're going to rotate it this way and cut it at 3.5, 3.5, and then 3.5. Perfect size for the inside of your card, and you can get more pieces out of 1 piece of cardstock that way. Ta-da! Now let's do some stamping. We're going to bring in some blocks here, and we're going to pull out a few of these stamp images. So you just peel the backing off, the little protective backing. Today we celebrate you. Notice I'm mounting it a little bit, it's not straight. That actually helps me. If I put a stamp on straight onto a block like this, I tend to look at the edges of the block when I'm stamping, and then I don't get my actual image centered. So this helps me to avoid relying on the edges. And now for a stamp like this, because it can bend easily, which is a great thing because you could make a curved word if you wanted to, I lay it down upside down and then I press the flat backing onto my stamp because it tends to lay the right way when you just let it loose like that. Okay, our stamps are mounted onto our blocks and they're ready to go. Now we're going to open up our ink pad. Now this is a larger ink pad, but I'm going to give you a tip here. I got this from Connie Stewart. Love her. You're going to actually, instead of lifting here where this piece is right here, you can lift it like a compact. This is also a wonderful way to open it. You just press your two thumbs, oops, press your two thumbs right on the edge like that and it pops up. It's so slick. Okay, now we're gonna set that into the base and we're gonna go ahead and stamp. I'm gonna stamp on the white side of this banner piece. So we're gonna start with the bottom one. Press firm, try not to rock. If you were to rock, do you notice I got a little bit of ink on the edges here? You could accidentally get that onto your paper. So never rock your stamps, you don't need to do that. Just press firmly. You also get some extra images in your stamps, so if I wanted to, I could add some confetti or a candle or a hat. I'm gonna try to go quickly through this card though, so let's go ahead and start assembling. Let's take our candles. We've got some candle strips here, and we wanna load this cake up. So we're going to take the adhesive backing off and slide it in. Make sure that it's below the edge of the pink and we'll press it down. Now don't worry about the extra that's coming off the side here because we can trim that up. And now we're starting the assembly process. For the snail adhesive, you just press and pull. It's awesome stuff, super quick, much quicker than the glue dots that come in the kit. But again, the kits provide us everything, so you don't necessarily need to have the snail. Now we'll just press this on the front of our card. And before we put on the happy birthday, I'm going to bring in that Poppy Parade mini striped ribbon. And we're just gonna make a little guess here, about that much. I'll measure it for you. I've got about 2 feet of ribbon here, 24 inches. We're gonna tie it onto our card, and we're gonna tie it in a knot first. Normally I don't do that with a bow, but I want my bow to be facing in another direction. So we're gonna tie it in a knot. Normally my bow would be facing this way. Now I'm going to flip the card this way, and I'm going to take these 2 strands, the one that's going downward I'm going to loop, and the one that's going upward I'm going to take over around the left side of that loop, bring it down and through that hole here, and tie it off. And now my ribbon, instead of doing that side to side thing, is doing more of an up and, more of a this way. It's going perpendicular instead of parallel. Now we're going to just trim off the ends here, and we're going to slide that up. I don't like to glue dot my ribbons down while I'm tying them. You could do that afterwards, but I like to be able to manipulate them and put them where I want them to go. So we're going to bring that in just a little bit like this. Now if I wanted to, I could stick a little glue dot under there to hold it still. But I'm going to take the happy birthday banner, put a couple dimensionals across the back. See where they land on the card here. That looks good. So we'll do one more across the middle. And there is that finished card. A happy birthday card using just 1/3 of the card material. Okay, and now I have another one, but before I show it to you, I want to work on the inside. So I'm going to pull in one of those 3.5 by 4 3/4 pieces again, and I'm going to bring in another color. This is a coordinating color with the kit. It's called Bermuda Bay, lovely blue. So let's open that one up. And this time we're going to use a little guide here. We have another number. I have a punched out number 2 from the kit. Now, this is good to know. The kit numbers, the punch outs, are the exact same size as the stamps. So you can hang on to a set of numbers and use them as guides for when you're going to be using your stamps. So don't use up all of these, I guess is what I'm saying. Use them as guides so that you know where you're going to position your stamps to make your stamps center in your future cards. Okay, so I'm going to actually have this off just slightly because I want to make room for the N and D for 22nd. So we'll just make sure that we have a little bit of space over there, and we'll stamp down our number 2. And now we can take and we can stamp our, let's go ahead and stamp our 22nd here. We'll just stamp that right in that little spot. And we can stamp our other two to the left of it to make 22nd be the theme of our card. And then we'll stamp happy. And I think that looks pretty darn centered with the help of our guide. So again, hang on to a set of numbers if you feel like you need some centering help, some positioning help. We'll put some snail adhesive on the back side of that, set that on the inside of this card. I have a niece who is going to be turning 22 pretty soon in May, so this card will be great. It's your birthday, happy 22nd, and on this one, which I can save for my 13-year-old, because there's exactly 13 candles on there. When he turns 13 next February, happy birthday, today we celebrate you. And red is one of his favorite colors. So there we go, we have 2 cards made from a half of the card supplies that come in your kit, just by adding the extra cardstock in there. This next project is on a slightly larger scale. I want to tell you first of all that a while ago, a long time ago actually, my nephew, Jake, he was about 3 or 4 years old, and I made him an alphabet book, I believe it was, where I took pictures of him holding or doing something with different letters of the alphabet. Like A, he would have been holding an apple or something. So I took pictures and made him an alphabet book with pictures of him on every single page. So I highly recommend, if you have small kids, really small kids, making them a personalized book like this. I do not have small kids. I have one child who allowed me to use some of the photos I took of him in this book, and he does look a little bit younger the way I whitened up the photos, but I also use my cat. So my book is not as personalized as the one that I did for Jake, but just keep that in mind. So we're gonna make a book, but we're gonna make a counting book this time because we have all of those numbers, these number stamps and the number punch outs that came in the kit. So a special gift for somebody small. The one thing that Stampin' Up! Does not carry, we used to years ago, it's called a crop-a-dial. And I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or other crafting supply places. But this here is an awesome tool for cutting holes through multiple layers of cardstock. And I find that, no matter what, this is just the best way to do it. So you can, take and punch each piece at a time if you want to, but we're going to use this tool even though Stampin' Up! Does not sell it anymore. I recommend it. We're also going to use the snail adhesive, the trimmer. We're going to use some ribbon called the black satin ribbon. This is beautiful stuff. It's nice and thick and it ties really nice. We're going to use the paper snips, of course, to use with the ribbon. Photos, you'll need a photo for every number, 1 through 10 or 1 through 20 or whatever you're going to put in your counting book. And then these clear envelopes. These are awesome. You can actually mail your cards in these clear envelopes. So the exact same size as our medium, vanilla, and whisper white envelopes. You just want to make sure that you put the address stuff on the inside and the postage on the outside, and that there's nothing distracting on the side that has the postage and addresses. But otherwise, the flip side could show off your beautiful cards that you make. Yes, you can use them to mail. We sell the clear envelopes, and then we're going to use 3 different colored cardstocks on our booklet. We're going to use whisper white, basic black, and flirty flamingo, which is another color that coordinates with the kit. In fact, it coordinates with this beautiful lining of this envelope, which we're somehow going to use on the cover of our book. And then we're also going to use these numbers. Now, if you want to save your punched out numbers for other things, then you can use your stamps instead, and let me show you. So each spread of this book is going to show off a new number. So let's say I've already done 1 with the cat. Now I've got 2 with my son's beautiful eyes. I love his eyes. So that would show the picture on one side and the stamp on the other side. So if you're going to do stamping, you could do it this way. Now I'm going to do my book with the black as the number side and the white as the mat, the photo mat, because we're going to put these numbers on, and they're a little too light to go against the white background, so they're going to go against a black background. Let's first trim up our photos. Now, if you get true digital size photos where they are 4 inches by 5 3/8, all you need to do is just trim off 1/8 of an inch at the end, on either end, and then you'll have the perfect size photo to layer onto a 1/4 size sheet of cardstock. So now this is a 1/4 sheet. It's 5.5 by 4.25, and the photo is 4 by 5.25. So it layers perfectly on that size. So we're going to trim our Whisper White cardstock, and you'll need 11 of those. We're going to trim those to this size. We're going to trim them to 4.25 by 5.5. So we need 11 of those. And I'm going to move this off to the side so it doesn't confuse you. 11 of those, and then we'll need 10 of the basic black, which are the smaller size. So these are the same size as the photos, and they are 4 inches by 5.25. And then we're going to need our photos. And I've got 10 photos here, and they're all trimmed and ready to go. I've got our numbers 1 through 10 ready to go. And I've got our envelopes that we're going to slip them into ready to go. You need 11 of the clear envelopes. We're going to work on the binding of our book along with putting our pages into the sleeves. And so we're bringing in a 2 3/4 by 4 3/4 piece of basic black that I have folded in half. And to fold that in half, to score it, you would score it halfway at the 1 3/8 inch mark. All right, with our pages in order, we're actually going to flip them upside down now. So this is the back side here. And we're going to bring our envelopes in, and we're going to insert each of our envelopes into an envelope like this. And we'll flip it over each time we're done here. So we'll slip it in, flip it over. Slip it in, flip it over. And that's the reason why I'm doing it this way, is because I don't want the numbers to catch on the edges of the envelopes. And so I want to make sure that I see those edges as I'm sliding them in. And now we're going to take those pages, and we have our binding middle piece ready to go. And we're going to start again from the back. We're going to peel off the protective layer on that envelope. And the first one that you do, you want to kind of use some grid paper like this so that you can line up your edges. So you just make sure that everything is straight. And you're looking at the envelope, not the photo that's in the envelope, but just make sure the top of your envelope and the bottom are flush with those lines. Then bring this together inside here, being careful not to stick it yet, and make it look a little centered here. Hang on. It wants to stick. Don't stick yet. And then just start layering the rest of these on top. Again, using the envelope edges, not the photo edges, to guide you. After a time, it might help to hold it up this way. That's what I was doing on my first book, because yes, I have another one to share with you, besides the one that we're making. So it's easier sometimes to kind of make sure it's all straight that way. And I've got my last one in there. You might be wondering, why did I put the photos in there instead of just adding the envelopes and then inserting the photos? I think it's easier to add the photos when you're not cranking the book open, but you could do it either way, yes. In fact, we do have to insert one piece in here, and that is because I took some of my Whisper White cardstock and I ran it through the printer to make a title page and a title piece that will go on the front cover. So we just need to cut those down. I'm going to bring back our trimmer. We're going to cut this piece to 5.5 inches wide. And that just takes some calculating. I don't have any magic to tell you on that. 5.5 by 4.25. Now you could stamp a message on the inside or just handwrite it. I don't have anything else to share with you on that. Okay, so we're gonna trim this down, and I don't know what size I want it yet, so I'm just gonna go ahead and trim it so it looks centered on this piece. Let's work on the cover, the back and the front cover. To do the back and front cover, we're gonna trim our Flirty Flamingo to 4.75 inches wide by 8.5 inches long this way. We need 2 of those pieces. I can set that aside, we don't need that. And then we're going to score at 1 3/8 inches from one of the ends on both pieces. This will be adding to the binding of our book to make it stronger, so we can just crease those. And again, we have the front and the back cover with this piece in between, like that, okay? Let's go ahead and slip this on the inside. If you wanted to, you can do any more decorating that you wish to do on those pages, but now we have that ready. For this, I'm gonna go ahead and do some measuring. So we're gonna set this into our trimmer, and we're gonna bring it into the 3/4 inch mark up here. And when we put this down, we have a ruler along here as well. So we're gonna measure about 1 inch in and make a little mark. 1 inch in and make a little mark. And that's where we're gonna punch our holes for the ribbon to go through. So we can go ahead and do that. In fact, let's do these 2 separately. So on your crocodile, if they make them the same way still, there's a large hole on this end and there's a small hole on this end. This is not for punching holes, although a lot of people think it is. It's not, but it can do damage, so don't put your fingers in any of these holes. And then you're gonna go ahead and just eyeball the little dot that you made in there and crank it down, and you can punch through so many pieces at once. It's incredible. Then we can take one of these and we can set it on top of our black binding piece, and with our pencil just draw a little circle like that. And now we have guides for punching the rest of the holes. For our ribbon, you're going to need, I believe it's 2 feet. Yes, 2 feet of ribbon, and I angle cut one end, and I'm going to go ahead and hold these really close together, start from the front and poke that pointy end through, pull it to the back, and then on this side, same thing, make sure all the holes are lined up, take that same pointy end and bring it back through to the front. And it's okay if it frays a little bit because you can trim it up, make it look good again. So I'm just evening out the ribbon and making sure that there's no twists or turns in it on the back side. So let's bring our trimmer back in. And I have a piece of black cardstock, it's just a scrap of it, that I'm going to cut down to, go ahead and make this 3.5 by 4. And then we can take and trim the other pieces down from that. So this will be our base piece. We're going to grab an envelope and we're going to trim off the edges, just really close to the edges, like that. And now we have this piece here that we can use as a fun paper layer. So let's make that one be, let's see if it's 3.5 by 4. Let's make it be 3.25 by 3.75. And that means this piece has to be even smaller than that, and that's okay because I have a little mark on there. Let's make this piece go down even more. How about trimming off enough so that we have it at, oh yeah, 2 inches sounds good. And if this piece was 3¼ and this is going down to 2. Then we have an extra 1¼ inch, so we want to have about an extra 1¼ inch on the other side, or we could make it look like that. I kind of like that. I think I like that. So let's just trim off a little bit on each end so that we have a 2" by 3¾ inch piece. I don't have everything prepared ahead of my videos. All right, well, let's grab our adhesive and really slather that up. Now, this is not the most baby-proof kind of book, so just keep that in mind, that this would be a book that you wouldn't just let them sit down by themselves and read on their own, because they're gonna drool on it and wreck it. So, but it's definitely a book that you can read with them. So it's not strong, I guess is what I'm saying. But it's protected enough if they want to give kisses to the images on the inside. And you can always use a stronger tape too. So now we have our Count With Me book done. I'm going to show you the other one as well. All right, here we go. So Count With Me. And then we have all these fun little pages. That's Lucky, our cat, my son. 3 piano keys. Truck with 4 wheels. I think you saw these in the video, but anyways. You can see how the images are different than the ones in this book. So not the actual photos, but the numbers. So I used the Bermuda Bay numbers on this book, and I used the lighter colored ones on this book. But again, you could use the stamps. And if you use the stamps, you could totally stamp onto white paper too. You can do that. So, and there's his hands. I told you he contributed a couple pictures. Good old Luke. Thank you, Luke. 2 Count With Me books. Let's do the next project. And as I'm whisking everything away, getting ready for my next one, I forgot to mention that, and you may have noticed this, but I have this layer here that is cut from this piece. So there are holes underneath this. You can see, if I lift it up, you can see that that's where the number sheet was. So yeah, use your scraps. So these first 2 sets of projects are on the simple side. I know you can do it. Anybody can do this. This one's a little more time consuming, but you can make these things pretty easily. This next project though is a little more entailed. And first I want to introduce you to the card that inspired me. So this is a card from Verla, who is in my Stampers with Art community. She's a talented gal, I have to tell you. She made a shaker card, and you can see the sequins just kind of float in there. They float between 2 layers of tulle. She got the idea from watching a video by Jennifer McGuire, the talented Jennifer McGuire. And so I wanted to take that idea and put it into this month's paper pumpkin kit. And so you get to see this ahead of time. This is what we're gonna make. We're gonna make a shaker card the same way. We need a few extra tools and a little bit more patience because there's some skill involved in this, but I will walk you through the whole thing. So we're gonna make a tool shaker using this kit. So what do we need? From the kit, you're gonna need your dimensionals. You're gonna need your tear and tape adhesive, nice strong adhesive. We're gonna need our ink, our Poppy Parade ink, this card base, a few of the bows, a number of your choice, and the little banner piece again. And then from, and stamps, of course. And then from the extra tools that you're gonna need to bring in, we'll need the snail again, the snips, some tape of some sort that's removable, washi tape, masking tape, the Take Your Pick tool, love it. It's gonna be great for picking up these sequins, and I'm using both the iridescent and the metallics assortment of sequins. You're gonna need some tulle, just scraps of it. A little goes a long way. Some basic black cardstock, I just have a scrap of it that we're gonna trim down, so then obviously we need the trimmer. And then we're gonna need a tool called the Big Shot tool. And it is an impressive tool. Once you invest in it though, you're gonna love it, but it's a little bit of investment. And we're gonna use the layering circle dies, okay? So let's get started by first cutting our cardstock, our basic black cardstock, to size. We're gonna need this piece to be just smaller than the card front. So we're gonna cut it down to 5¼ by 4 inches. Now we're going to take our card base and we're going to make sure that we've got that crease going there so we can see it. We're going to layer these pieces on top of each other this way. That way we can see what we're cutting. We're going to bring our Big Shot tool in. And for your Big Shot, you need your platform with the adapter die or the magnetic platform, either one. Then you're going to need a protective layer, a cutting mat. And so we're going to put that one down. And then you're going to need your dies. And for the dies, I have 2 of them that I'm going to use. We're going to take and cut with the scallop one that measures, let's see, make sure we have the dimension right. From scallop to scallop, it measures just over 2 3/4 inches. And that one fits inside the one that will create a 2 5/8 inch circle. So that way, I'm measuring from the inside now. If I measure from the outside, that one is almost 3 inches. Okay, so when you get your dies, you know which ones to pick. And we're going to make sure that this is completely centered in here between the crease mark and the edges so that we have 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then we're going to lay this right in the middle. And I'll tell you that there's going to be a right side and a wrong side because it doesn't always get exactly in the middle. So we'll have to keep track of that throughout the process of making a card. Then you put your other cutting mat over the top, make sure it's pressed down firm, and guide it through. And it will cut out both layers of that scallop circle. We'll just bring it back this way. And now we can take the die off the top, press that through, and now we have these pieces to use for something else, and we have this for the middle. Now, what I want to do next is I want to make this piece slightly larger so that we see a little bit of black edging in there. So we're going to take our slightly larger circle die now, and we're going to lay that over the top so that we see an even amount of paper on the inside. And we're going to bring this down on top and guide that through. And this piece, when we bring it back in, will have just a slight amount of black edging on it. I'm going to tell you right now, the toughest part of doing this card is making sure that these pieces were centered when you cut them, because when we put the tool and the tape and all that stuff here and then on here, we have to sandwich it together and pray that everything lines up. So you want to make sure that you cut it pretty exact, and you want to kind of check it out before you put all that sticky stuff down so that you know how it's going to come together when you tape it down. Okay, now another thing is you could flip it the wrong way and it may not line up exactly the same way. So be cognizant of that. Let's go ahead and just open up this card base and set this off to the side because this is the direction. I'm going to make sure one more time. This is the direction that it needs to go. And I'm just going to check it out and lay it down here and just take a peek. Okay, so now leaving them as is, we're going to start layering on some tear and tape adhesive. And that's exactly what it is. It's tear and tape. So you can just tear it right off with your fingertips. And you want to get it close to the edges of both the circles as much as possible. That helps to hold everything in. We're actually going to do this around the circles 3 times. So we're going to do a layer around this circle, a layer around this circle. Then we're going to put tulle on top of one of them and put another layer of adhesive there. That's something that Jennifer didn't do in her video, but I found that it was helpful, at least with our tear and tape adhesive. She may have used a stronger one, but my sequins were falling out the first time. So now that we've got that around there, we're going to grab a tool called the bone folder and we're going to press all the way around. This is a burnishing. It's giving it pressure and it really makes sure that those things are sticking down. And then we can take a tool like this and we can peel off all of the backings from our tear and tape adhesive. So now I have tear and tape strips all the way around each circle. The next step is to put some tulle down, and it doesn't have to be pretty. You can see that there's a rough edge there. That's quite all right. Just make sure that it is going to cover up your circle and it's going to grab onto that tear and tape adhesive. And then you'll want to trim it up a little bit so that we can get some adhesive along the outer edges of this black cardstock, because we're going to add some tear and tape through here too. So that looks good there. We'll do the same thing on this side. And I'm now going around and adding an extra layer of tear and tape adhesive that's going to sandwich between these pieces of tulle. And you can see I'm not going over the exact same places where my adhesive was before, because I want to make sure that I've got tape everywhere. So I've also added some tear and tape adhesive along the outer edges of the black cardstock layer, because that will reinforce that none of the little pretties fall out, because they fell out on my first one. I really think that this is the key though, adding that third layer of tear and tape between the two pieces of tulle that will come together. Okay, now comes the fun part. Yes, you actually get to do the fun part before anything else on the card. We're making the shaker. We always do the shaker portion first, and then we embellish. So now what we need to do is we need to add some sequins. And on my first card, you may have noticed I don't have a ton of them in there, and that's totally fine. If you want more, you certainly can. I believe I used all these colors. You just put them right in the middle, like that. And then you can take and grab some metallics if you want to too. I'm just going to add black like I did on the first card. And to do that, I'm going to grab this end of my Take Your Pick tool. It's got a little tacky end on it. If it's getting too long, you just snip it off. And then you can reach in and you can grab just the colors that you want. It's awesome. It just picks it right up. I think we have a good amount in there. Keep them all in the middle. Now on a regular shaker, you use window sheets, and window sheets tend to get staticky. So this is awesome because there's no static involved in creating this shaker. It's really great. Oh, and I do want to say that try not to dump your sequins onto your sticky portions of the layers that you've got here, because if you do that, you're going to have a really hard time trying to get them all off. And I'm not speaking from experience. Yes, I am. Okay, so now we just bend this right over the top and we pray that it lines up pretty well. Yes. And then we can just take, it's pretty good, right? And then we just go right around like this with our bone folder and make sure that that tear and tape between the two layers is really tight. Burnish everything. Okay, we got the shaker portion of our card done. Next, we're just going to add onto the front a couple bows. So we can just put some snail adhesive through the middle or glue dots from your kit, and we'll just add those right about here. We're going to add one of these bows in the middle. And then we're going to stamp our sentiment across. You know, I just thought of something that might have worked really well, but I didn't do it on either card. So maybe if I tell it to you now, you won't make the mistake on your card. It's not really a mistake, it's just going to make it easier. So we're going to cover up the U. First of all, let me get through this step and then I'll tell you what I was thinking. Okay, we're covering up the U, and we're going to ink up Today We Celebrate. That's called masking. We're going to peel this off, set that aside, and don't touch it because it's got ink on it. And we're going to stamp this towards one side. There we go. And that's going to set down right here. We're going to put a dimensional on one end, and we're going to put snail towards the other end. We'll just set that right there like that, making sure that the top edge is parallel to the top edge of your card. It can dip into the circle a little bit. Flip it over, trim off the excess. So now I'll tell you what I should have done. Before we actually put tape and tulle down, we probably could have taken our numbers. We're going to do 55 on this one. We probably could have taken our numbers and laid them in the circle before taping them down. But we're going to have to just kind of, guess here. So let's see what we can do. Let's see how we do. Not bad. I'm going to bring it down just a tad. Just don't press them right away, right? I like that. Okay, so this one's going to stick there. This one's going to move over just a tad. Okay, there we go. Yay! Today we celebrate. This is a wonderful anniversary card I have ready for a fabulous couple that I love. And then another couple that I love is celebrating their 20th anniversary in a few months. So I have 2 anniversary cards ready to go. I have one more project to share, but I hope that you visit me at my blog at stampyourartout.com. I always share more projects than what I show in these videos. This project, this last one, is a card, and I'm going to make it because I was inspired by the polka dot look of these papers, the lining that's inside the envelope, and of course the card front here. And so when I looked at it, it just called out to me frosting with sprinkles. The extra products I'll be using will be the Early Espresso ink pad, which is a wonderful, rich, deep brown, and then the coordinating cardstock for that's Early Espresso. I just need a scrap of these 2 colors. So Early Espresso and So Saffron is the yellow here. Of course, my basic tools I love to use are the snail adhesive and the snips, paper snips or scissors. I'll be bringing in a couple circle punches, the 2 1/4 inch circle punch and the 3/4 inch circle punch. And then I'm going to be using the note cards and envelopes for the base of the card. These are wonderful for Paper Pumpkin subscribers because they already come pre-cut and scored, ready to create cards with. I'm going to show you how to make some fun and easy donuts. So you want to have 2 different size punches, one extremely smaller than the other circle punch, or you could use dies for this. But you're going to bring the 3/4 inch circle punch all the way into your scrap of either the chocolate or the vanilla base for your donut, hence the reason I chose the Early Espresso and the So Saffron. So after you've punched that little circle, then you can line up your large circle around the little circle so it's centered, and punch, and now you have a cute little donut. Let's do the same thing with this one here. So now, instead of using that full card base that I'd showed you with the polka dots, I do have this scrap left over from when we did the shaker card. So how are we going to get that into the punch and hold it and get it centered and all that? Well, we are going to use a sticky note, a post-it note, just to hold on to it like this. Let's go ahead and first punch into the middle. And then we're going to go ahead and punch. Now we're using the same punches, by the way. And see how that sticky note helps you to hold on to it? So now we'll punch that out. And we peel off the little back. Okay, now what we need to do is we want to see that donut through there, and we could off-center it like that. That's been done. Another trick is to take your paper snips and to start cutting inward so that you're making a slightly narrower circle, and you're also making it look like frosting by making a wavier cut, not a real exact circle cut. So this is good because you don't have to be exact. And we'll do the same thing with the outside. And now we have frosting on top of our little donut base with sprinkles on it. So let's go ahead and add that with some of our snail adhesive. So the next plan is to kind of map out where your donuts will lie on your card and where your words are going to go. And to make it easy for this card, I have 2 versions of it. We're just going to go ahead and stamp the Today We Celebrate You, and I'm kind of making it off center to the bottom right. And then we go ahead and tape these donuts down. Now you'll notice that I have some extra white space in here, and I'm going to show you how to fill some of that in. So after I adhered 2 donuts where I want them to be, I have this excess sticking out the edges. So I can flip my card over and I can trim off that excess. And I can add it elsewhere on the card. And I don't have to use the whole piece. I can just use a portion of it. So I've only used one of the sections that I cut off so far, and I've already made it look like I have 2 extra donuts. So this piece came from here and I haven't even used it yet. I only used this little section here to stick along here. I actually had another scrap that I had to throw away. But now I have a piece that I could put on the inside of my cards. I'm just going to add a little extra snail there to make sure it's all sticky, and we're going to put it right here on the inside. And then we're going to stamp happy birthday in there. And then on the outside of the card, I've added dimensionals to the chocolate donut, the one that matches the ink that we're using. And so we're just going to pop that up to give it a little bit of depth here. And now we have a really cute birthday card to send to somebody. And these note cards are mailable. You can add them, you can put them in the mail. Let me show you another version that I did. We're just going to hold that down so you can still see it. So this one, I added some Share What You Love artisan pearls to it to make it look like extra sprinkles coming down, you know, kind of sprinkling down. And you'll notice that this donut size is a little bit larger. That's because I brought in those circle dies that we used on the other project. But again, you don't need to use dies in order to make some cute donut cards. I ran out of time in this video, but I do want to share with you another product that works really well with this kit, and it's the Balloon Builder Punch. It's got 2 balloons on it, and this smaller one works really well with the stamp that comes in your extra stamp set. So we're going to ink this up with our Poppy Parade ink just onto some Whisper White scrap paper so you can see how awesome this is. We'll do a couple of them here. And then we're just going to take our punch, open it up, use it upside down, and you can see it just fills up that space for that punch. And you've got almost exactly the same size balloon. So if you wanted to do some sort of layered look where your balloons are popping up on your project, you can do that with the punch. Very fun. I couldn't resist. I had to add a few sprinkles on this card too. Now that you've watched my video, I hope that you can see that there's so much more to these kits than meets the eye. With just a few extra supplies and some imagination, you can go beyond and make so much more with these super affordable kits. I hope you gained some inspiration from what I've shared. Thank you for watching. It builds creativity to think outside the box. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can catch more paper pumpkin videos that I've shared using past kits and more that I'll share with future kits. Also, be sure to visit my website at stampyourartout.com so that you can view close-up photos of these projects, see photos of other paper pumpkin kit ideas in future and past posts, and see many other great ideas that I share using Stampin' Up! Products. You'll find these links in my description below. And to get spoiled with extra goodies, gifts, prizes, and extra exclusive paper pumpkin project ideas, get your subscription started with me as your demonstrator. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Now I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.